Dark Academia, Howls Moving Castle. Need I say more? Hi guys, it's Carrie, and today I hope that this video brings you a lot of comfort because we're going to be talking about some books that I think you would like if you like Studio Ghibli films. And Studio Ghibli content, why do we like it so much? It is so wholesome. It celebrates so many little things in life, but it's still also so rooted in magic. There's always some kind of adventure, but it's still really like everyday life. It feels nostalgic. Everything about Studio Ghibli is fantastic, and I have come up with a short list of books because it was actually really hard to talk about that I think you'd like. A lot of these are gonna veer a little bit darker than Studio Ghibli tends to be. The content is so wholesome in Studio Ghibli films that it's almost difficult to put that into a book and have it be interesting, I think. So yeah, these are gonna veer a tiny bit darker, but I think they still hold the same core. And I'll link it down below, but there is actually a list of books that a lot of the films are based off of. So even Kiki, Howls Moving Castle, they're all based off of books, loosely based off of books. So I will leave those down below, but these are gonna be totally not related to the films, except for our first book. I told you guys this wasn't the last time you're gonna see this book on my channel. Howls Moving Castle, yes, it is a book. This was a book originally, and as you guys might know, if you've seen some of my other book videos, I adore this book. Diana Wynne Jones writes such fantastic young adult to like middle grade fantasy. She has so many other books. There are so many more in this series, so please go check them out. Don't just read this one. But it's a similar story where we have Sophie and we have Howl and Calcifer, all the characters that we love. What's great about this book is that it goes so much deeper into their stories and Sophie's curse, and even like Howl and Calcifer's curse and everything like that. If you liked the film, this is a little bit different, I think. It's not gonna be exactly like the movie, but if you love the film, I think that you should also definitely give this a try because it's just enchanting and it's just Studio Ghibli up the wazoo. So yes, that's my first one, Howls Moving Castle. The rest are not actually related to Studio Ghibli, but you can't not talk about this book, so here it is. Woo! Next on my list is one that I don't physically have. I had to return it to the library, unfortunately. It is A Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. And actually, Elias, I will link his channel down below, I had posted that I was reading it and he commented something about how it reminded him of Howl's Moving Castle. And I was in the process of finishing the book. And when I finished it, I was like, oh my god, it is. If the film Howl's Moving Castle was cottagecore, Sorcery of Thorns is Howl's Moving Castle Dark Academia, which, what a dream. The Sorcery of Thorns follows Elizabeth, who was orphaned, I think, unclear, but she was basically brought to a library where she was raised, and she's training to be kind of like a caretaker for the library because this isn't a normal library. This is the magical world, and the books have kind of a soul. A lot of the books are spells written by wizards, so the books kind of have a mind of their own, and if they're mistreated, they can become monsters. It's very dark, moody library with haunted books that talk. I mean, it's just, Anyway, she ends up getting in a little bit of trouble. She is accused for a crime, and she has to be taken to court, kind of, by the wizards. And there is one wizard who is charged with taking her to this place, and there are little demon friends. There's like a little Calcifer. It's a short read, but I really enjoyed it. A couple people gave me feedback that they thought that the characters weren't given enough time to grow because it is quite a short book, but I still really enjoyed it. I definitely cried, and the ending is just great. So yeah, I would just say if you're interested in kind of a darker fantasy but still holding on to kind of the roots of Howl's Moving Castle, this is right up your alley and I definitely recommend it. Dark Academia, Howl's Moving Castle. Need I say more? Next is another book that's gonna kind of veer to be darker and more sad, so apologies, but it is the Graveyard book by Neil Gaiman. I think it holds a lot of the same feelings, at least to me, that Studio Ghibli gave me, if not much sadder. And it follows nobody, also called Bod, throughout the book. And in the beginning, this is so dark, why am I? Basically, his entire family is murdered except for him while he is a toddler, and the only reason he lives is because he was exploring and he crawled out of his family's house and he was playing in the graveyard, and all of the ghosts and spirits living in the graveyard decide to keep him safe, raise him. So he's kind of like a ghost boy a little bit because he can walk through walls and stuff in the graveyard, but it's just a story of the first 14 years of his life being raised by ghosts and ghouls and trying to make friends and trying to find out more about his real family. It pulls on so many heartstrings, but anything by Neil Gaiman is just such a wonderful little adventure. So if you haven't read it yet and you're prepared to cry a little bit, I would definitely give the Graveyard book a good try. So this is another book that I have mentioned on my channel already, sorry, and I only have the second one in the series for whatever reason, but I want to talk about A Wrinkle in Time. So A Wrinkle in Time actually really reminds me of Spirited Away for some reason. It follows Meg and mainly her little brother Charles Wallace, and they end up going on this crazy adventure to try and save their father who is away. Who is away. There are witches and all these weird science fiction things. It just really feels like Spirited Away, how you're trying to save your parents. You are thrown into this very weird world where your kind of logic doesn't really exist. There's a chance you might not be able to go home. There's a cute boy that helps you out along the way. This one isn't a dragon, but still. As you can see, this is just the sequel, but it's a quite quick read. I believe it's more like middle grade than young adult. It's kind of a mix of fantasy, science fiction, and yeah, I really love it. It's a classic for a reason. A Wrinkle in Time. So I'm gonna be real, for the next one, I haven't actually read this in decades, probably, but I remember the 1993 film version of this book having such a strong impact on me, such a strong impact on how I see the world around me, how I still see and believe in magic all the time. I'm very grateful for this book and the 1993 film, not the remake. It is The Secret Garden, and it basically follows Annie Lennox, who unfortunately had to come back to England because she was living in India with her family, and there was a terrible accident and her family passed away. So she went to go live with her uncle, I think, in his like big English manner. She is cranky, she is sad, she is grieving and unhappy and a little bit spoiled as well. So she kind of is not digging this whole situation, especially because she is basically alone in the manor. She has a bunch of rules where she's not allowed to do anything, not allowed to go anywhere. She's just this kid stuck in the middle of nowhere in an empty house. And so it's kind of a little bit gothic. It's you start to think that there's gonna be ghosts and all this stuff. She's constantly hearing crying. She knows that there's someone else in this house, but there are just all these secret passageways and locked doors. Eventually, though, she finds out that her cousin is also living there, but he's very sick, and so they keep him inside. He can't leave his bed, he can't see the sunlight or anything. He's just one of those overprotected kids in like a Victorian novel, very weak, very frail. And she decides to break him out. And of course this English manor has like beautiful grounds and gardens, and she ends up finding this locked garden. It's completely sealed over by ivy, and the story kind of revolves around that, discovering this garden, discovering her cousin, discovering another friend, and kind of starting this very magical adventure. So if you don't have time to read the book, even though I do recommend reading it. The 1993 version of the film is really great and has a lot of Studio Ghibli feels, and it is very near and dear to my heart. So, The Secret Garden. And almost done, but if we want to talk about wholesome content, I can't not talk about Anne of Green Gables. What's there to say? If you've seen the Netflix series, it does a great job. Honestly, it's absolutely wonderful. But Anne of Green Gables follows Anne Shirley. She is an orphaned young girl who gets sent to live with this middle-aged, they're not a couple, they're brother and sister, but they work on this farm together, and they really wanted a helping hand, a young, strong person, a boy, to help. So when Anne arrives, this little girl, they're like, what the hell? And they kind of consider returning her, but she eventually wiggles her way into their heart and hearts. Two hearts, they have two hearts. It's just a collection of wholesome little adventures that she gets on. And yeah, if you're looking for like wholesome cottagecore content, Anne of Green Gables, or Anne with an E, or Mori Anne. If you're in Korea, everybody says that I am her, so I love that. I appreciate that. Anne of Green Gables. And my last book is a wild card. And the reason it's a wild card is because it is adult, and it is not dark, but it's just got some very adult themes, I would say. I'm not sure if this is completely related to Studio Ghibli, but I think there's a good chance that you'll like it if you like some parts of Studio Ghibli. I'm just throwing it out there. Paprika by Yasutaka Tsutsui. There is actually also an animated film about this, and it is weird and wild, and I only watched it once, and I really need to watch it again after reading the book. But I went into it not reading the book, and it made no sense. I would recommend reading the book before seeing the film. So Paprika is about a woman who is a psychotherapist, and so she works at this institute, which is kind of like in a futuristic world is what we're dealing with. She works at this institute that uses a lot of kind of cutting edge ways of doing therapy for people who are suffering from PTSD or depression. They use a lot of futuristic thingies. And there's a new machine that they're using that actually lets you access other people's dreams or see them and record them rather than that person just telling you what they dreamed about. These machines let you actually see the dream on a screen. But what this particular woman does is she will actually become a dream detective. And it's a little bit secretive what she's doing, but she goes by the alias Paprika, and she invades her clients' dreams and kind of pushes them to uncover some secret, something, especially with PTSD, something that is kind of the trigger, and she will help them solve that problem or like see that person's face, that blurry person's face, whatever, to solve it. But of course, these machines get into the wrong hands, and if somebody can invade your dreams, as we've seen from Inception, it's not always a great thing. So she also has to fight that. And so it's very science fiction-y. I don't know, I felt like it was kind of like a very twisted, Spirited Away in some way. You have to use a lot of imagination to get into this book. I couldn't get into it the first 2 times I read it, but once I did, it became one of my favorite books. So I am passing this one on to you. Again, it's not wholesome necessarily. It's not, you know, cottagecore or whatever we're dealing with Studio Ghibli, but take a chance. I think you might like it. So that is my list. Again, it was kind of hard to figure out, like, the emotions I feel for Studio Ghibli films are so strong that it was difficult to find books that I felt captured it all. So these were my good old try. I might come and I don't know, make episode 2 of this, renew it someday. But yeah, I hope that you guys might pick something up from this list. And if you guys have any recommendations that you think kind of capture the same spirit of Studio Ghibli, definitely let me know. And again, check the list below for all of the books that the films were actually based off of. And yeah, this was fun. If you do read any of these, Let me know what you think, especially about Dark Academia, Howls Moving Castle. But yeah, I will catch you guys next time. Thank you as always for joining me, and let me know what you're currently reading. I feel a reading rut coming on strong, unfortunately. I've read so many good books recently, but I don't think I can keep up the momentum. So let me know what you are reading right now and maybe just help a girl out, you know? So, all right. Catch you guys next time. Thanks as always for watching. Bye.